What's his name?
Daniel Prude.
Black Lives Matter?
Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter?
Black Lives Matter.
So as we move forward in this movement, we have to understand what that means. The Prude family still has to get justice. We still are requesting the mayor to fire the officers. These officers should not be back on the street policing in no one's neighborhood. Right now, the officers are still out on paid leave. So I need all you to understand that. City council takes emails. Send emails to city council. Send emails to the mayor. We want these officers fired. As these beautiful young ladies are drafting and have put forth already Daniel's law, it reached legislation in Albany. It's on the floor. So get that up. That's right. This is an evolving movement. This is evolving. We have to dismantle this system. The system is the problem.
Yes.
Yep. Systemically, institutional racism. These things plague black and brown communities. What fuels the system is hate. If you're out here to hate, take your ass home.
Yeah.
The only way we change this thing is by a communal effort. Not doing this thing as an individual, but by a communal effort. And being pissed off. You can be pissed off. You can be mad as hell. Especially those that look like me. You're obligated to self-reflect. All of us. Our counterparts, you white folks, obligated. Go home and talk about it. Go to your job and talk about it. If you're not making no noise and you're only out here because you think you're doing us a favor, you're not. What changes the game is when you have the conversation and you're at your dinner table, in your boardrooms, in your office. And not no superficial conversation, but the real thing. In Rochester, we're not gonna allow babies to get maced anymore. We're not allowing it no more.
Facts.
We're not allowing cops to do what they want to do anymore. If we see it, guess what we do? We just did it a couple weeks ago. We pop up. We're on the scene because we keep us safe.
Who keep us safe?
We keep us safe.
Who keep us safe?
We keep us safe.
Who keep us safe?
We keep us safe.
That's what it's about. That's what it's about. Daniel died right here. Almost a year. Right here. They covered it up. The mayor lied. The chief lied. The mayor wants redemption but don't want to be held accountable. You can't have redemption without being held accountable. If we don't understand that this system that we love so much, America, everybody loves America, but it's predicated, the foundation, the bedrock is built on hatred. How do we beat it down? Pause. How do we beat it down? We change the narrative. We change the narrative by holding us up. And accountability and everything. Daniel Prude deserves justice. His family deserves peace. Closure, they deserve that. And we're going to be out here every day demanding that the officers be fired. Demanding that officers be fired. Go to City Hall, like I said, send emails. If you don't want to send emails, go down there. Slide it under the door. But we want those officers fired. Fired. Can't work nowhere. Blackball, can't go nowhere and work. Because usually what happens is officers get fired and go to other police agencies. Or they get let go or early retirement and get to go somewhere else and cause tyranny and brutalize other communities. No, we want them fired, exiled. This thing is real. This thing is serious. It's serious. It's serious. It's a weight. It's a weight on black people. It's a weight.
Facts.
It's heavy.
Facts.
It hurt. The pain that we carry, the burden that we carry. But in 2021, shit gonna change. Shit gonna change. We're gonna start in Rochester. We're gonna start in Rochester and show the nation and the world what shit look like when the people come together.
Yes.
When the people deliver laws and legislation. That's what it's about, man. So tonight, because we're small in numbers, we're going to do a talk session, and we're going to talk about Daniel's law. Because marching and protesting is a portion of the movement. Education and understanding is a portion of the movement. Being registered voters and voting. These people that look like us are in office. White folks are in office. And because this is how it works with legislation. Those people write legislation that reflect their belief. And it penalizes us. So we have to get people in those offices that have the mindset to go to the people for legislation. That's true leadership. That's what leadership looks like. But what the people want. That's what they're supposed to be doing. We've been doing this since May. Some of us longer than that. And yet have politicians, but a few have came out and said, well, what do the people want? The verdict is on us, man. The verdict is on us. It's on us to change the narrative. The people bend the will of government. The people bend the will of government. And we will have what is ours. Whose streets?
Our streets.
Whose streets?
Our streets.
All right, y'all. How y'all doing?
All right.
It's been a heavy couple of days, as I'm sure all y'all are feeling. It's a lot of going back and forth between anger, between hurt, between sadness, between pain. And it's really hard to sit with that weight. You know, a lot of us got everyday lives to go to. We got work, we got school, we got exams, we got life, we got kids, we got bills, we got stress. And we have this whole other weight that's just on top of us. And we go into these extra spaces and we're supposed to dissociate. We're supposed to pretend like what's happening in real life isn't happening in real life, and that we're not thinking about Daniel Prude being murdered 2 streets over from the houses that we live in. Our community is hurting. Our community is going through a lot of pain. And it's essential that we address that harm. We address the harm that the city government is doing to us, because that's really who's responsible. We need to reinvest in our community. We talk a lot about divesting from the police department and divesting from certain institutions. We need to talk about giving that money back to us, giving that money back to this street, giving that money back to the folks who are actually struggling. And that can look like so many different things. That looks like rent relief. There are people who are back paid. The pandemic's been going on for a year. People still can't afford their rent. People still don't have jobs. People are still struggling. But their landlords are still expecting these payments, and the city's not helping us. The government's not helping us. So there needs to be rent relief. There also needs to be food relief. We put up, the city, our people, our community, our peers are putting up food stands because we're not being fed. Do you know how sad that is, that we have to rely on mutual aid to survive? That folks are struggling, they can't afford a meal, so they have to go grab a couple of cans of soup from down the street and from a box? That's disheartening. And we know people who live like this. They're struggling, and the city no one's helping them. So we're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars that's going to this fuck-ass RPD that they don't need. When our people need that, our people are hungry. Our people have no place to sleep at night. Our city is one of the worst cities in the entire country for childhood poverty. Our kids are hungry. They're going to school at Rochester City School District with no hot lunches. They're getting granola bars and goldfish and expected to stay 8 hours at school. What does it look like to give that money back to our community? Poverty, homelessness, healthcare, education, all these things are related. And we want to talk about these large issues. How about we just start fixing the problem right here? How about we start putting the money back into the community? And I promise you, you'll see a decrease in crime. I promise you, people wouldn't have to steal from grocery stores for a bag of chips if they had food at home.
I agree.
RPD isn't solving shit. There's been statistics. We got the graphics on our FTP page. What, they solve like 20% of crime? And it's not even violent crime? What are they doing? What do they need this money for? We need that money. Our community is hurting. We could have free Wi-Fi all across the city because we're at home virtually trying to live through this pandemic, and people still have to pay bills, like their internet bill. Do you know how much of a luxury internet is? But it's something that we actively rely on day to day, but people can't afford it. How are they going to work from home? How are they going to do school from home? There are so many things the city could be providing us. City transportation doesn't leave like this, like 5-mile radius. You can't even get to like Henrietta if you got to go to a job because the bus won't take you there. There's so much shit we're lacking in. And it's all just game. It's all politics. Politics is dumb. I'm not talking about legislation. I'm talking about all this talk. You see these people get in front of the cameras, like the mayor and the attorney general. They all got shit to say, but what's really happening for us? At the end of the day, we're still struggling. They making all these statements. They doing all this talking, but what? What happens to us? We just gonna keep struggling? We just gonna keep dying? It's the middle of winter. Daniel Prude died in the middle of winter. In the cold ass street. We trying to see that happen again?
Hell no.
We want to see that happen again on our streets?
Hell no.
The streets that we grew up on? I'm from this hood. This is my home. It hurts when I think about Daniel Prude. It hurts when I think about Jefferson Avenue. This wasn't what I thought of when I thought about Jefferson Avenue before last year. I thought of the charity down the street that I go to volunteer at. I thought of the community center that's down that way. And imagine if that shit was actually funded. This could be a hub. Culture, people thrive when there's funding, when there's money for the people. And we're living off scraps. That's really what it is. We're living off scraps, and we're expected to just fend for ourselves and fight for ourselves and struggle till the end of time, and it's not happening no more. It's really not happening no more. This been the most painful year of my life. I'm really not gonna lie to y'all. But it's also been transformative as hell. And I'm getting more radical by the day, and I'm learning, you know what? I really believe in the power community. I really do. Because if every single person in this community stood together and say, no, we're not taking your shit anymore, I promise you we would see change. I promise you we would see change. So we're going to do what we can. We're going to keep contacting who we need to contact. We're going to keep supporting each other. We're going to keep relying on mutual aid because that's what we got to do. But we burning this shit down and we building this shit back up for us. We building it back up for us. Who keep us safe?
We keep us safe.
Who keep us safe?
We keep us safe.
Thank you.
So as Anthony and Luna said, because the crowd is so small tonight, we really just want to remind this community that we're still out here no matter how cold it is, no matter how small the group is. So we brought some chalk for folks to chalk. You can write Daniel Prude, you can write whatever you want, Black Lives Matter. But before we do that, I just want to talk about some action items, right? So we know that the jury that indicted Daniel Prude, that didn't indict the officers who murdered Daniel Prude, 16 of them were white, 3 of them were black, and 1 of them was Hispanic. We know that that jury pool is chosen because of people's voting records, right? So now we have some legislation on the floor that will open and widen up voting access to people who are just getting out of prison and who are on parole and probation. So that's some legislation you can get behind. Of course, a couple of weeks ago, we just introduced Daniel's legislation to the Assembly and to the Senate, and it is now on the floor. We're in the middle of creating a campaign of advocacy around that, and it is statewide. So while we're specifically talking about what happened in Rochester, the legislation will impact the entire state. So we've talked to Black and brown organizers, we talked to Black and brown mental health professionals, and people who are directly impacted by mental health crisis to put this legislation on the floor. So as the weeks are coming and the months are coming, you're gonna see what that advocacy looks like. You can check out our Free the People Rock page and figure out how you can get involved. We need to hear your stories, we need your testimonials, we need you talking to your legislators. The second thing is ending qualified immunity. We talk a lot about the policies that's in place that protects police officers, and one of those things is qualified immunity. That just came to the floor, and we need to figure out who your legislators are, who your senators are, and call them and ask them to sign on to that bill. Another thing is we know that all of these systems are connected and work together to keep folks down and keep folks oppressed. One of the things that's on the floor right now is tax the rich. And we say tax the rich, that's about education. But we know that the school to prison pipeline is fueled, especially here in Rochester, New York. All of our senators and legislators have been talked to about this. None of them have signed on except for Demond Meeks. So figure out who your legislators are, who your senators are, and ask them, hold their feet to the fire to sign on to this legislation. Again, thank you guys so much for coming tonight. It's gonna be a little more laid back than it's been. Please feel free to write whatever you want to on the ground, talk to the neighbors, talk to the people in the community, and build community among each other. Once more organizers get here, people will come back and talk about things that are important to them and that they're lifting up in this time. But thank you so much. Please get some chalk.